You ever have one of those days, you feel like you're running around from morning till night, but at the end of it, you can't really point to a single big thing you got done? Yeah, you are not alone. It so often feels like our days are just happening to us. But what if you could flip that around with just one simple habit? Today we're going to break down a really powerful technique to take back your schedule and start designing your days with actual purpose. Let's jump in.
So let's start with something I think we've all felt. You have a pretty small task, right? Like reply to that one important email. But somehow it just expands and eats up your entire afternoon. Or maybe you've got a huge project with a deadline weeks away, and you only finish it in a caffeine-fueled panic in the last few hours. It's this super frustrating feeling like time is just sand slipping through your fingers.
Well, it turns out this isn't some personal failing. It's not a sign that you're just bad at time management. It's actually a predictable, super common part of human nature. In fact, there's a name for it. It's called Parkinson's Law. And just understanding what it is, well, that's the first step to beating it.
So what is Parkinson's Law exactly? Basically, it's this idea that our work swells up to feel more important and more complicated depending on how much time we give it. So if you give yourself a whole week to do something that should only take a couple of hours, your brain will find a way to make it a week-long ordeal. It's this funny little quirk that turns all that open-ended time into an enemy of actually getting things done.
And you see this play out everywhere, right? That quick 5-minute shower, it can easily stretch into a 20-minute shampoo bottle concert if you don't have anywhere to be. And just think back to that college project. The amount of work didn't really change, but your focus and intensity, oh yeah, that completely changed depending on if you had 2 weeks or just 2 hours left.
So here's the key takeaway, and it's a little counterintuitive. Constraints are actually your friend. Deadlines, whether they're real or ones you set for yourself, are what force our brains to lock in and focus. They're like a filter that cuts out all the noise and distractions and pushes us to be incredibly efficient. They create that sense of urgency we need.
Okay, so that leads to the big practical question. If deadlines are the secret sauce to being productive, how can we use that power every single day? Especially for those important things that don't have a boss or a professor setting a due date for us. How do we manufacture that focus on demand? By creating our own deadlines.
Well, the answer is a really simple, really elegant system called time blocking. It's basically the habit of planning your day before it starts, deciding what you're going to work on, and this is the important part, for exactly how long. It's not just about managing a to-do list, it's about managing your time and your attention. And honestly, it's a total game changer.
And the best part about this is just how simple it is. I'm not talking about some massive, complicated life overhaul. I'm talking about taking maybe 5-10 minutes before you go to sleep, when things are quiet, to just map out a simple game plan for tomorrow. That's it. That's all it takes to set yourself up for success.
And the payoff for that tiny bit of planning is immediate, and it is huge. When you wake up, the hardest question of the day, what should I even be doing right now, is already answered. There's no wasted brain power, no decision fatigue, no scrolling on your phone to avoid figuring it out. You just look at your plan, see your first time block, and you start. It is a powerful weapon against that morning procrastination monster.
Okay, so you get the why, the power of creating your own deadlines. Now let's get down to the how. It's a super straightforward, 2-step process that you can literally start using tonight.
First, you take a big, overwhelming task, like work on my presentation, and you break it down into smaller, much less scary pieces. Just doing that alone makes things so much clearer. Then for step 2, you give each of those little chunks its own specific, dedicated block of time on your calendar.
So for example, instead of that vague work on presentation, you create specific actionable blocks. Create the outline gets a 45-minute block. Find images and data gets a 60-minute block. See? These are now your self-imposed deadlines. They give you a clear target and a very clear finish line for each piece of the puzzle.
Now, this quote right here perfectly captures the mindsets you need. During that 45-minute block, creating the outline is your entire universe. That means no email notifications, no scrolling social media, no, I'll just quickly do this other thing. You give that one task your undivided attention, with real intensity. That's where the magic happens. And this rule is just as important as the one about starting. When the timer goes off, you stop. Seriously. Even if you're not perfectly done, you move on to what's next. This is what gives the deadline its teeth. It stops one task from bleeding into the next and totally wrecking your day, and it trains your brain to get focused inside that window you gave.
Okay, it's really important to set the right expectation here. Your first few tries at time blocking are not going to be perfect. You'll probably guess wrong on how long some things take.
And that is completely okay. The goal isn't to be a perfect scheduler overnight. It's about making progress. Think of it less like a strict schedule and more like a game, where you're just getting better and better at knowing your own focus and pace.
So, to help you get over that initial hump and start building this awesome habit, we've got a little challenge for you. This is how you can put everything we've talked about into action, starting tonight and actually feel the difference tomorrow.
Here's exactly what you're going to do. Before bed tonight, grab a notebook or open your calendar. First, pick your single most important task for tomorrow, the one thing that's going to make the biggest impact. Then, break that task down into smaller, concrete steps. And finally, give each of those steps its own specific time block.
And here's the secret ingredient to make sure you actually do it. Tell someone. There's this cool psychological trick where the simple act of sharing your intention makes you way more likely to follow through. You don't have to share your whole day, just pick one of your time block tasks and put it out there.
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Something simple like this is perfect. You could post it in a group or just text it to a friend. Be specific about the what and the when. Tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 9:45 a.m., I'm blocking out time to outline my report. It's simple, it's clear, and it gives you that little bit of extra accountability.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. By taking just 5 minutes tonight to plan a small, focused block of time for tomorrow, you're doing so much more than just scheduling a task. You're designing your day on purpose. You're telling your time where to go instead of just wondering where it went. So the only question left is, what are you going to accomplish with your very first block of time?